Shofuso Japanese House and Garden, modeled after a Buddhist guest house located in West Fairmont Park in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and is a Japanese cultural home to people in the greater Philadelphia area. We sat down with Rob Buscher, now Executive Director of the Japanese American Confinement Sites Consortium, tells the Nichi Bei crew about the interesting history of Shofuso.
Shofuso is a very special building that was gifted to the people of the United States by the people and the government of Japan in the immediate post-World War II era. It was created in partnership with the Japan Society of New York and was actually meant for a site-based installation at the MoMA, Museum of Modern Art in New York City. So a Japanese post-war architect, Junzo Yoshimura, who was actually well-known in modern architecture and had rebuilt a significant portion of urban Japan following World War II. He was hand-selected by Arthur Drexler, who was the architecture curator at the MoMA in that era, who was familiar with his work and thought it would be an interesting opportunity to showcase the similarities between Japanese traditional architecture and modern architecture. Just 8 years after the end of World War II, Junzo Yoshimura got together with a group of Japanese traditional craftsmen and architects and designed and built a 17th century style shoin-zukuri temple guest house that's loosely modeled after the temple guest house at Kojoin, which is a temple complex near Biwako, east of Kyoto. And so, again, being built in the 1950s, 1953 specifically, in Nagoya, Japan, but using traditional building techniques that were replicated from the 17th century. They created this house, which was then deconstructed and shipped to New York City in over 6,000 separate crates, where it was then unpacked and rebuilt in the sculpture garden at MoMA's Midtown Manhattan location. And so from 1954 to 1955, over 2 seasons, and after the exhibit closed, Japan Society of New York and MoMA began looking for a final location for Shofuso to be installed. And the site that they chose was actually West Fairmont Park in Philadelphia. So West Fairmont Park is a very historic site that was the original location of the Centennial Exposition of 1876. Imagine the precursor to the World's Fair, held here in the city of Philadelphia to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the nation's founding. This was the first time that the Empire of Japan participated in an international exposition. And so just about 100 yards away from where Shofuso sits today was the Japanese Pavilion and Japanese Cultural Bazaar that existed from 1876 for just a year and a half, the duration of the exposition, before being deconstructed with the other temporary buildings. But in that site, in the years interceding, has been a Japanese garden in some shape or form. And so for that reason, it's one of the places in the United States that has the longest continual presence of Japanese culture since the forced opening of Japan.
Rob explains how a small Nikkei community in the 50s came to embrace Shofuso in the 70s.
With Shofuso being installed in 1958, this presented an opportunity to at least have sort of a Japanese aesthetic, but it's not actually until the late 1970s, mid to late 70s, that we start to see more engagement from the Nisei specifically in that space.
With Philadelphia's economy at a low in the 1970s, Shofuso became neglected.
The government of Japan heard about the conditions of the house and threatened to take it back. And that was the moment when the Nisei community in Philadelphia sort of stepped up and said to the city government, look, this is really like a national treasure quality piece of architecture, and you're not treating it as such. But with our help, we can try to reach out to the Japanese corporate partners that have started to settle in the Philadelphia metro region to see if their Japanese offices would be able to sponsor the restoration of the house. And in fact, they were able to do that in time for the 1976 Bicentennial Exposition.
But with the momentum of the 1976 Bicentennial, the Japanese American community stepped up.
The Nisei, who had been really sort of instrumental in creating some of these links, said, we know that if we don't do something now, this is going to happen all over again. And it's just a matter of time before either deferred maintenance or vandalism takes its toll on the space. So what they did was start organizing a friends group called Friends of the Japanese House and Garden that was formally established as a 501c3 nonprofit in 1981. Shofuso became a place that was being run by Japanese American community members, but with sort of the distinct purpose of sharing and celebrating Japanese traditional culture with both an outside audience who was non-Japanese, but I think equally important and probably more so in their eyes was having a space to intentionally reclaim their heritage as Japanese.
Shofuso Japanese House and Garden is located in West Fairmont Park in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Shofuso is now open through October 27th, Wednesday through Sunday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m., and from November 2nd through December 8th, Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Please visit the link or QR code shown for more information or to order tickets. This is Greg Viloria for the Nichi Bei Cafe.